Welcome to the channel Witness for Jesus. This is Dawn. Today I'm going to do an important interview with a man who is one of Jehovah's Witnesses still, and he's in good standing currently in the Jehovah's Witnesses. He's physically in and mentally out, which we call PIMO. And he's just recently stepped down as an elder, I believe, and he's agreed to be interviewed, but we're going to keep his identity secret. So his voice is going to be altered to protect his identity. Now, we all know that the Jehovah's Witness organisation is so secretive, so it's going to be interesting to find out now what the situation is with elders in the organisation, what they know, how they deal with judicial matters, and also what other information might be coming down from circuit overseers and other hierarchy in the organisation. But also, we're going to talk to him about what has helped him to wake up. So I'm going to just call you PIMO, if that's all right. Hi, PIMO, and welcome to the Witness for Jesus channel.
Well, thank you, Dawn, and thank you for having me on your channel. I really appreciate the work that you've done.
You're welcome. I'm really pleased that you've agreed to have a chat today. I've got my little cup of ginger tea here ready, and I'm really looking forward to what we're going to talk about. So tell me, first of all, tell us all, how long have you been one of Jehovah's Witnesses and how did you join?
Well, it's been about nearly 30 years. I was contacted via a family member who witnessed, as they say, to me about the Bible, or their interpretation of the Bible as I now see it. And of course, I asked a lot of questions, as many people have many questions they want answered. And they attempted to give me an explanation from the Bible, which I was convinced was what the Bible was trying to teach me, answering those questions.
So how old were you then?
I was in my early 20s.
What's your sort of experience within the Witnesses? What positions have you held, and what is your current standing?
Well, as you know, within the organisation, there's for males in particular, there's a career path, if you like, for want of a better phrase. I was a publisher for many years. Then they used this expression to reach out for further privileges, so that the sort of natural progression for a male would be to become a ministerial servant, which I think is like the equivalent of a deacon in sort of church terminology, and then to reach out then to be an elder. So I followed through on that career path, if you like. I was a servant for many years, I would say sort of 10 years plus, and then eventually reached the heights, as they put it, as an elder in the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Over the years, when you were a ministerial servant and then when you were an elder, were you one of the people who was 100% like a true believer in all of it? Is that how you'd categorise yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously not until towards the end, where obviously I started to question things. But yeah, like all, most of witnesses, they're very sincere in what they believe. They believe that they have the truth, because that's what they're fed from, from the organisation down. They believe that they have the truth, and they're very, like many, I was very sincere and did believe it.
Well, I think that's the case with a lot of witnesses, because of the fact that it takes such a time investment and such a kind of big part of your life that most people, if they're not sincere, they're not gonna stay.
That's true.
But overall, I think I wanted to sort of ask you about what exactly caused you to wake up in recent months. And I understand from our previous conversation it is really recent. So what happened?
Well, I think the sort of the outcome is quite recent, but I think the journey to the outcome has been really over the last sort of year, really, over 12 months. So these little things you see, double standards among elders, particularly ones in prominent positions. You got your kind of coordinator, or your presiding overseer, as it used to be called. The general way I've seen someone's treating members of the congregation or talking about them behind their back in quite a harsh manner. But not all. I will have to say, not all the elders have been like that. Some of the elders I actually believe and genuine towards the brothers and sisters in the congregation, and have genuine sort of feelings and care about them in a positive way. But some characters, some very sort of narcissistic, double dealing characters, you think that's not very Christ-like. Jesus wouldn't behave in that manner. So little things like that kind of make you sort of stand and stop and think, well, this isn't right. Why is this sort of tolerated, or why is that kind of tolerated? Those kind of things initially that made me kind of sort of stop in my tracks. But the real clincher for me is we had a visit from the circuit overseer, and in the circuit overseer's visit at the end of the week, there's usually on a Friday evening, you have the meeting with the circuit overseer with the elders and the ministerial servants, and then the ministerial servants leave, and then that's left with the elders. And the circuit overseer mentioned discussing the subject of judicial committees, which is another area which I have issues with. Judicial committees and how they were to be conducted, and the fact that witnesses were secretly filming or recording their judicial committee meetings and putting them on YouTube. And well, of course, what do they say about curiosity? Well, of course, investigating. Well, I'd like to see what's going on with these videos on YouTube. So, because you go on YouTube and type in Jehovah's Witnesses, and all sorts of things have come up. And I was introduced to channels such as XJW Critical Thinkers, John Cedars channel, Berean Pickett's channel, and of course your channel as well, Dawn, which I've really appreciated. And I've come to learn the facts about this organisation, which frankly has been hidden from me and from its members, because the members are simply encouraged and told that anything and everything that doesn't come through the organisation is demonic lies and propaganda. So, and for a long time I believed that, but of course, as they say, the truth is out there, and I've come to discover many things from JW Facts, which I think is a fantastic resource to finding out the hidden things that the organisation has lied about in the past, and many other areas of things that has really sort of caused me to wake up, and of course, in all conscience, then knowing the truth about these matters, if I was to go on the platform as an elder, I would be a real hypocrite to myself to teach this stuff, when I know a lot of it is not true. Obviously, not all of it is lies, but even as the broadcast member said recently in the governing body, that even if it's just 10% inaccurate, it's 100% wrong. Well, there's definitely more than 10% wrong with the things I've learned about this organisation.
Yes. Wow. So you go on YouTube. I'm just trying to imagine this. I'm trying to imagine a JW elder goes on YouTube and puts Jehovah's Witnesses in. Now, how were you feeling at the time? Were you feeling really strong in your faith, as in, I don't care what I find because I know everything about the truth? Or were you feeling scared inside or something?
Well, a little bit apprehensive, obviously, because it's really drummed into you, as you know, that you're not supposed to look on these dubious sites if it's not come from the organisation. But because I've seen a lot of bad behaviour from witnesses, I wasn't really scared. I was more inquisitive, because I think if everything was rosy and everyone's behaviour was impeccable and everyone was loving and kind, I suppose I would feel that way. But I think because I've seen a lot of bad behaviour with my own eyes, I think I was quite open-minded at this point to see what I was going to discover. Very surprised and glad to learn what I've learned. A bit of a big eye-opener. But I think I was quite open-minded at this stage, to be honest.
So what were the main things that you found that jumped out at you as the proof, the real clinchers, I suppose?
How long have we got, Don? Well, the sort of big ones are the 10 years affiliation with the United Nations. I mean, goodness me, this is the United Nations is portrayed by Jehovah's Witnesses as Satan's organization. It's the mark of the beast 666. It's a counterfeit, imperfect, demonic organization which you'll see printed in its literature, and then they're kind of hand in glove with the UN as a member of the UN as an NGO, a non-government organisation. But to sign up as an NGO, you have to agree with the ideals and goals of the organisation, and that to me is utter hypocrisy from the witnesses, because they're saying in the literature that this is the devil's organisation, part of Satan's system, and yet there they are as a non-government member, an NGO, a member of the UN as an NGO, which I found really shocking. That was one that really kind of made me slam the brakes on when I saw that. Many other issues, the failed prophecies, the cover-ups of 1975, where they say, oh well, the brothers were putting too much of their own interpretation on the event. No, that's just bold lies. It was printed and put into public talks and conventions that 1975, this is going to be it. And so there's the lies and cover-ups there, and of course then on JW Facts you see about all the prints, the failed prophecies, 607 BCE. How the archaeology doesn't support that, and really, from my own perspective as an elder at the time, was you look through, the organisation will put on its website and quote the Catholic Church on paedophilia and sex offenders right within that organisation, and yet you find out what's been going on with the Australian Royal Commission. The cover-ups within the Jehovah's Witnesses, these things. When you have the Elders Manual as well, which is a bit of an eye-opener, I feel, with if somebody vandalises the Kingdom Hall, the instruction from the Elders Manual is ring the police. If you're assaulted or threatened when you're engaged in the ministry, ring the police. If there's an allegation of sexual abuse, ring the legal desk. So it was all these kind of things that really sort of think, hang on, this isn't right. This isn't. Where's your moral obligation? Even if the country in which you live in, there's no legal obligation for the elders to report an allegation of sexual abuse to the police, which that is the case in many countries, sad to say, that they're not legally obliged to inform the police of these matters. But where is your moral obligation? Surely you have a greater moral obligation to report these instances to the police. I mean, thankfully, as an elder, I never had to deal with anything of that nature. But I think if I had, I would have informed the parents, you need to ring the police. Even though they say we won't stop people from ringing the police, I would encourage them and I would tell them to ring the police if I didn't ring the police myself. So these are the things that have really made me sort of slam the brakes on and think, no, this isn't God's organisation.
Yeah. And about the child abuse issue, I did want to explore that a little bit with you. Are you saying now, you've just mentioned it, but I'm confirming that, are you saying that as at now, 2020, that it's still the official advice to the elders that if they get an allegation of child abuse, that they call the legal desk and not the police?
Absolutely. As far as I know, that is still the same. It's still the same thing. There was a watchtower which I sat in on with sort of steam coming out of my ears, but of course I had to sit there and pretend like nothing was happening. They say to people, we won't stop you reporting this to the police, and that is true. They won't as far as I know. But of course, because I've never dealt with any particular case, I'm sure people who've had to handle this situation may have different experience. The victims, that is. But they say that we don't stop the people reporting it to the police. But each case is obviously different. But that's the official line. But as you know, that there is an official statement from the organisation, which is what they put out there for the public. But then again, the sort of atmosphere and culture can be somewhat different from what is actually portrayed in the publications.
And you mentioned that you didn't sit on any judicial committee in regard to child abuse.
Correct. Yeah, I have been on a number of judicial committees, but never in a committee of that subject matter, thankfully.
Right. Because, well, I'd like to ask you about the other judicial committees, but the first thing I wanted to ask about the child abuse issue was that even though you didn't sit on any committees, were you aware of any committees for child abuse that you didn't sit on at all?
Not in the congregation I attended. So as far as I knew, there was never any issues of child abuse in the congregation that I was attending. I had heard about child abuse cases in other congregations through the grapevine, as it were, without people naming names. But but thankfully I never had to sit on a committee myself, and there was never any sort of allegation in the congregation that I was in. As I was an elder, when what happened before that or after, obviously, it won't be to my knowledge. But as I was an elder, for the time I was an elder, there was never anything in our congregation.
You see, many people, even myself, we know of, child abuse kind of stories and allegations, even though we're not at the elder level. There are people who, even in congregations local to myself, I went to a memorial a couple of years ago. I did a video of it, and in that particular memorial, as I looked around, there were 2 paedophiles standing there in the congregation at the memorial who I knew of, and one of them had been in prison and the other one had never actually been convicted, but I was pretty sure, to be honest.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I do feel that even anecdotally you can kind of find that each congregation has got 1 or 2 people in there who've had some kind of allegation, which is monumental really in terms of numbers.
Well, you think of how many, there's the sort of 90-odd, 93, 95,000, 96,000 congregations, whatever the number is, worldwide. I could imagine that. And the two-witness rule, I just find is bizarre. And I find that the two-witness rule is used in so many areas of abuse, not just sexual abuse, but physical abuse, bullying, verbal abuse, and their answer is, well, if you haven't got another witness to this never took place. And I've witnessed. I've been on the end of verbal abuse from a so-called fellow elder who absolutely, sort of a massive verbal attack on me. And of course, you question that person, say, well, you shouldn't have done that, and you bring someone else with you, as the scriptures say. And of course, they just deny it. So that two-witness rule is used for abuse on all sorts of different areas, not just child sexual abuse. It's abuse of bullying and harassment. It's a terrible thing, and unscriptural.
Because what you're talking about there, effectively, is elder bullying.
Absolutely. And the two-witness rule is if you haven't got 2 witnesses, then you can't prove it. So basically, if one person bullies another person, unless there's 2 people there to witness it, then they get away with it. And that's abuse of all kinds, in my opinion. My experience, I've been on the end of verbal abuse, and that individual has got away with it because of the two-witness rule.
Because this leads me to another question that I already wondered about, which is how many of elders, so let's say you've got a body of elders of 10, how many of those 10 know about certain things like these apostate ideas? You know, they've sat on judicials for apostasy, let's say, and they've heard about the Australia Royal Commission, they've heard about all those things. And how many of the body of elders have no clue at all?
It's a difficult one to answer, isn't it? Because you need to get into the head of each individual one. Because, you know, if the one actually believes everything that comes out of, that's not from the organisation, is satanic lies, then they're not going to believe it. Even if, you know, you can put blue in front of them and they'll say it's red because the organisation says it's red, even though it's blue or another colour. But then you get the other individuals who might look and might know that it's you know, that the things they've discovered is not right about the organisation, but then they might have their entire family in the organisation, so they would be afraid to want to leave because they don't want their entire family to shun them, because they would be disfellowshipped for their loaded language interpretation of the word apostasy or apostate. So it's a difficult one to answer, that one, Dawn. I really, I couldn't really, there's so many factors to consider on that one. You'd have to take that on an individual basis, I'm sure.
Yeah, so where you were being effectively bullied by another elder, it's my belief that there are significant numbers of elders who are fully aware of various aspects, various sort of, maybe even the control mechanisms that are being used. When recently, I think it was a couple of years ago, there was an elder who had left the organisation, who was welcomed back for a talk. He was asked to do a talk in a Kingdom Hall, and he did the talk in the Kingdom Hall and recorded it for YouTube. And he was not an elder, he was not even a Jehovah's Witness, but he went up on the platform. Did you see it?
No, that's good. I want to watch that.
Right, well, I'll send you the link, right? And I'll link it below this interview video as well. This guy stands up on the platform in his suit, acting as though he's still an elder, even though he isn't. And he started doing a talk, and in this talk, he starts to give the real sort of gospel of Jesus in the talk. So he's talking about how we're saved by faith in Jesus, right? He mentions sort of Romans chapter 10 and things. Right, now, the interesting part about this is he only got to be up there for, I don't know whether it was 15 minutes, it may have been, and a couple of elders jumped onto the platform, took the microphone off him. They turned the microphone off during his talk, and the elder who got hold of the microphone said something like, "That was a bad message."
Wow.
Right, now,
Wow.
I'm thinking, right, there's got to be a number of elders who really are aware that the message of, oh, you just need to have faith in Jesus, must be suppressed.
That's another thing for me. You know, I think that, you know, come to in my journey so far that, you know, I consider myself a Christian. I secretly this year part of the Emblems. I think their interpretation of the 144,000 and the heavenly class and the earthly class is wrong and mistaken. I think you're right in it. There are ones who you know, if you're a sort of diehard sort of in the mould JW, you're gonna just, you know, you will put the governing body above the Bible, and you will put what the Watchtower says above the Bible. And I think there are ones of that mould, but I love the Bible. I've always loved the Bible, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to put men above the Bible.
And I'm so happy to hear you say you're a Christian still. And when people say that they've partaken of the emblems as well, I always find that quite an emotional thing, because it's so important, and it's wonderful to hear, actually, because I believe that that's one of the symbols of being set free from the organisation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jesus, you know, he said, keep doing this in remembrance of me. And then he says in Matthew 28, I am with you all of the days until the conclusion of the system, and teaching others to do all the things He's commanded them. So that to partake is a command from Jesus. I've come to appreciate that. And I used to think, well, if the 144,000 teaching was spiritual Israel, then it's right, isn't it? The teaching is right. However, I was thinking that if that teaching is wrong, that it's not spiritual Israel, it's literal Israel, and the Gentiles are the other sheep. And what this organisation has managed to do is to get 20 plus million people every year to physically reject Jesus Christ. And that to me is demonic.
Indeed. Now, I'm surprised you say that. I'll tell you why. Because it took me a very long time, even after I'd left the organisation, to say that the organisation had what you would say is a demonic element. And it's because when people leave, it takes people often a long time to really grasp what's going on, I suppose. So what I want to say now is, I know you're on limited time at the moment, so
yes, yeah.
I do want to continue talking about, for instance, things to do with judicial committees, things to do with medical consent to elders, things to do with records and records being destroyed, things with the circuit overseer and to do with what level of control they have. And I'm only saying all of this because I'm saying that we're going to do another interview, which is also going to be uploaded to the channel, where we're going to cover more information. And one last question though, before I finish this particular section, is that if you can say that the organisation is doing something that's demonic, how on earth are you attending meetings, and why are you still attending meetings? Because you're physically in.
Well, it's very, very difficult. I mean, I think it's the project fade, as I like to call it. It's going to be a gradual thing. I have family in, and I know that if I come clean with how I feel, I will be labelled an apostate, and my family will have to shun me because the organisation would have disfellowshipped with me. But again, that doctrine in itself, apostate, the word apostate means to draw away from God. But I haven't gone anywhere. When it comes to my relationship with God, I've got closer to God. So they use a loaded language. There's two meanings to the word apostate. You have the dictionary definition of an apostate as somebody who leaves an organisation, a religion. You can leave one company as an employer and join another company, and you'll be classed as an apostate from that company. So that's a secular sense of the word apostate. The scriptural meaning literally means to draw away from God. And I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't gone away from God. So anything in addition to those two things is loaded language and the interpretation of men, not the interpretation of any Bible scholar or anyone who knows anything about Hebrew or Greek.
I mean, I suppose the lockdown has helped you in the sense that it's now going on Zoom at the moment.
Yes, the Zoom meetings, that's quite an experience.
Are you still having to put your shirt and tie on for these Zoom meetings?
They do say that you have to have your shirt and tie on, but because they only see you from the waist up, they don't see I don't wear boxer shorts, and they don't see my shorts. Sorry. I don't sit there in my boxer shorts, but I do put a pair of comfortable shorts on, and I don't wear shoes and socks. So of course, they don't see that because it's from the waist up. So. So I'm even being rebellious in my house.
I don't blame you. I do understand, and many people will understand the situation of the fade.
It's a very powerful tool. As an elder, I used to think that, yes, because I believed it 100%, it was the purpose of disfellowshipping was to keep the congregation clean and to shock the person to their senses that they come back. But it's never used in that way. It's either in my opinion, is used as a control mechanism to control and to manipulate. This organisation, I've come to appreciate, is a very high control group.
So we'll explore more things when next time we speak. And what I will do is, if I upload this recording soon, we can probably just ask people to post any questions that they have for you, and we can ask you those questions in the next interview. That would be a good idea, I think.
Yeah, sure. We can do a part 2. That's no problem. The one thing I won't do is obviously reveal people's personal information, any confidential matters in that regard, because I wouldn't want that sort of shared. I'm sure you wouldn't want to do that either. But any questions in general, absolutely. Yeah, I'll answer all those questions for you. So that's no problem.
That is brilliant, and I do appreciate you volunteering to do this, because it gives people an insight, and I think it's important, so important, that everybody speaks out so that we can help people, and so that people's lives are not negatively affected in the way that they are,
Absolutely, and just on a personal note, I really appreciate your channel and some of the videos you have on your channel there, Witness for Jesus. And that's you've been a part of my waking up process as well, Dawn, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And I love the Christian ex-Jehovah's Witness channels. I do love the other ones too, people exposing things where it's important to see all the other stuff as well as the Bible stuff. My channel's focused on the scriptures mostly, but as you say, there are other people out there giving some brilliant information as well. So we'll say goodbye now, and thank you for your time for now, and see you next time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dawn. Take care.